when I came into this office, I made two commitments that are more important than any commitment I make. Number one, to keep the American people safe, and number two, to uphold the Constitution. And that includes what I consider to be a constitutional right to privacy and an observance of civil liberties. I think that there is a suggestion that somehow any classified program is a quote-unquote secret program, which means it's somehow suspicious. But the fact of the matter is, in our modern history, there are a whole range of programs that have been classified because when it comes to, for example, fighting terror, our goal is to stop folks from doing us harm, and if every step that we're taking to try to prevent a terrorist act is on the front page of the newspapers or on television, then presumably the people who are trying to do us harm are going to be able to get around our preventive measures.
If you closed your eyes and you changed the treble of the voice here, let's face it, you could be listening to President George W. Bush. And if you remember back in 2007, then candidate Obama, Senator Obama at the time, was critical of the same program that he has since expanded, not just kept the same, but grown larger since he's been in the White House. And in many ways, as one person said, it's like the fourth term of the Bush administration when it comes to surveillance programs. Now, and of course, the comments you heard from the president, they were from earlier today, addressing the questions about the new revelations surrounding the NSA snooping program. His reports that this thing was not isolated, it wasn't contained, it wasn't through a lot of supervisory elements. This thing is wide-ranging, and many questions have emerged with just the information we know now, let alone what we're going to find out in the near future, like how far does it go? Is it domestic? Is it just foreign in our origination here? And the most important question, is this good or bad for America? And is this thing even legal? We do have a document called the Constitution. I'm sure that's going to come up at some point here. I want to bring in our panel in this conversation. We have Evan Thies. He's a Democratic political consultant. He's founder of Brooklyn Strategies, and he's a former aide to Governor Andrew Cuomo. Dominic Carter, political journalist and author, fresh back from Sing Sing, not in that way, Dominic, but nice graduation you saw firsthand. Richard St. Paul, Republican strategist and former vice chair of the National Black Republican Association, and Andrew Whitman, who you've met before, a senior political correspondent. Okay. First, anybody at the table surprised, not about the existence, but about the scope of the program? We knew there was surveillance. We knew after the Patriot Act, obviously the thing existed, and then we heard about, the FISA courts, et cetera. But what we've learned in the last 48, 72 hours from The Guardian, from the Washington Post, and others is it was the Patriot Act on steroids, what's going on right now. We're still learning more. Are you guys surprised about that or not?
No. Not at all. Not. Yeah.
Well, I am surprised the extent of which.
Me too.
I mean, whether you're a Republican or Democrat, you got to look at this issue and say, is this surveillance doing what it's supposed to be doing? And I'd say it's not. How did Boston happen if we're taking a look at pulling all these records, both internationally and domestically, phone records? How does Boston happen? The problem is they've expanded this law to include too much data instead of targeted data that will help prevent terrorist attacks. And in that scope, they're actually, I think, going too far and possibly violating the Fourth Amendment. Whether there's a judge saying that it's okay or not, still, I think it's gone too far.
I think you're even being generous that the judge is saying okay or not, because at this point, there is no threshold where there's some legal examination. The discretion's basically up to the NSA, where they want to go and how they want to go about doing it.
I think I was a little surprised by it also, because when information first came out during the Bush administration that there was some warrantless wiretapping going on, people were reacted.
Oh, let's be honest, Andrew. We went nuts on this desk about it.
I'm outraged by this disclosure also, but I think you hit on one of the problems in all of this, which is we're so focused on, when something happens like Boston, well, why didn't we do more to stop it? Why didn't we find out? How come we didn't know the answer beforehand? And we're so caught up in trying to, prevent the next thing from happening that we allow ourselves to get into these ethical morasses where, I'm not sure where this ends at this point.
We never had the debate either, Evan. And that for me was, we talked about it on the fringes and on the margins and all the rest here, but we never had a full debate as to whether or not we signed up for this. And I'm oversimplifying, because it's not just about where does the Fourth Amendment start and stop. There's technology, which on its own is going to move things along and make this complicated. But then it is, wait a minute. I'm honest enough at least to say if I was mad this was happening under Bush, I'd be a phony to say it's okay just because it's under Obama right now. We learned about this only because some disgruntled guy that used to be involved in the program, or certainly attached to the NSA, said, time out, I'm going to go public, I'm going to tell the Guardian what's going on. But as we sit here tonight, I don't know that America said, okay, I'm okay, go through my emails, go through my chat room comments, I say, go through my phone records here. No, don't get a warrant, don't do any of that, go right ahead. We have debates in this country about big government over guns, right? About just trying to have a background check on a gun. But some of the same people concerned about that say, never mind, go through every element of my life, from my bank records to if I'm talking to my girlfriend or not, and I'm okay with it. It's, to me, just totally out of whack about where the line is or isn't, even individually, about the role of government.
Look, if I have one major criticism about the way the Obama White House handled this, it's that they didn't try to have the conversation first. They're having it after we found out about it. And Obama did say today, and he should, that he welcomes that conversation, and I'm sure we're going to have that debate here and elsewhere across the country for weeks to come. But they made not only a government mistake, but a PR mistake by not having this conversation when they first got into the White House. Because I think that if people were presented with the facts and they knew how hard it was to be as vigilant as the federal government has been in recent years, keeping terrorist attacks to such a minimum, that they would say, okay, as long as Congress is looking in on this, as long as there are federal judges that are asked about some of these, and as long as we understand what the standards are and that they're not reading emails all of the time, but they're tracking information that can be helpful stopping terrorism, then okay, we'll do it.
Let me give you the benefit of that and say that they've used the right discretion in doing it. Who says, we've had presidents in the White House, and a certain guy by the name of Tricky Dick, okay,
Yes.
who certainly had enemies of the state here, or that people that he would designate as people that weren't in his camp, and we know that there's been abuses of power in White Houses before. Now, just to the point that Congress is on board with this, Dominic, you said it before, that every president, whether they got an R or a D in front of their name, whether they're male, female, white, black, it doesn't make a difference. Once they get in there, they want as much power as they can have. But the people who sit in the intelligence community seem comfortable with this, but a lot of the other members didn't exactly seem that they were well briefed on what was going on. I want to give just a little sample of what some of those lawmakers said. And if I could go through here, guys, these are just a couple of people who were on board, including Senator Feinstein, who said, it's called protecting America. She fades to black right there. We also had another lawmaker, I believe, who said, yes, they're okay with it. Lindsey Graham, in fact, said that, you know what, I'm a Verizon customer, I think his words were, thank you, and it doesn't bother me one bit that NSA has my number. Now, and I find this scary, I'm going to quote Rand Paul here and not call him nuts, okay? But this is what Rand Paul had to say, and there were other Democrats, including liberal Democrats, who were with this guy who was as Tea Party as they get, as libertarian. He said that NSA, National Security Agency, seizure and surveillance of virtually all of Verizon's phone customers is an astounding assault on the Constitution.